Hey guys, I'm Doglightning, and I'm a Season 11 Challenger Neeko support main who has been switching into AD Neeko in the preseason, but don't worry, I'll still be a support main, but just enjoying it. So this video will be split into 3 parts. There will be a crit build, an AD on hit build, and an experimental AP on hit build that I'll be honest, I'm still experimenting with and it's not perfect, but the crit and the AD on hit are very good so far. So yeah, like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy it, and here we go. Alright, so for my crit Neeko build, so for the runes we take PTA. PTA is really important because you want to have a good lane phase. If you don't have the option to all in lane, you're just gonna get outranged and poked out. So PTA gives you the option to go in and get a kill. So PTA makes it so every third auto it procs it, increases your support's damage and your damage by 8%, just really synergizes with her kit. After that I go Triumph so that you can get some extra healing since she's low range and squishy. After that I go Bloodline. So the reason I go Bloodline is because in the crit build we're not going to be getting any lifesteal until maybe 4th item, making this rune really important. Usually I'd take Cut Down unless the enemy team is fully squishy, but most of the time they have at least one tanky target, and usually you're going to be hitting the tanky target first, so Cut Down. If not, you can go Coup. And finally, for the secondary runes on this one, you have to take Ravenous Hunter and Eyeball Collection. The reason this is really important is because Neeko has the lowest, like one of the lowest base ADs in the game, and crit scales off of AD. So you need Eyeball Collection to make up the base AD because crit really heavily scales off of your AD. And I've tested with and without this rune, and at 3 item spike, you'll be missing, you go 1,100 more damage in a 10-second window just off this rune alone. It's really important to take it because of Neeko's AD being really low. And then Rav Hunter is just good for some extra sustain. Okay, so for the AD Neeko build and level up abilities, we are going to start off with, this is a Kraken Slayer crit build. So to start off, I usually start the game with Longsword and 3 pots. The reason for this is because you want to have basically the best level 1 in lane, because Neeko's not very good in lane at the very start. You want to just get it good early, so this will give you a ton of sustain, making it hard for the enemy to poke you out, and it'll also make it so you need less gold for a first back Noon Quiver, which is a really strong spike for you. You want to farm up to Noon Quiver, back, and come back to lane super strong, looking for all-ins. Anyways, so before I go into the full build, I will show you now the level up order. So to start off, you take W level 1, because you can auto attack the minions, and when you get your 3rd auto attack up ready, you can wait, and if the enemy tries to hit a minion, you can auto attack them and stealth away, or you can use it to go and just auto attack, stealth, auto attack, and then one last auto to proc PTA. So yeah, you can do that. After you take your W level 1, usually you take E level 2, so that if your support finds an engage, you can follow up with your own root and then all in off of it. You will also notice that I take Exhaust, and this is again for all ins, right? So if my support goes in level 2, I can root W, and then I can exhaust them and start fighting, and it makes it so that the enemy will just basically never win an early all in. And then after that, I take Q. It's mostly to help you farm and just for really early all-ins, but after like about level 5, you should probably never really throw your Q. It's kind of a DPS loss as it does like 80 damage, right? And I'm already doing 124 damage per auto. I mean, I'm level 18, so it's a bit inflated, but yeah, you'll find later that it's just like better to auto attack than to throw Qs. It's mostly just there to farm in the early game and for like a little bit of all-in pressure on level 3. After this, we are maxing our W. So W, right? W. And the reason why we were maxing W is because W increases the damage of every 3rd auto attack by 20 per level, which obviously, since we're building attack speed, scales well with Neeko because every 3rd auto you're going to be doing more damage, and we're just going to want to keep autoing. Also, it increases the move speed you get from every 3rd auto from up to 20% up to 40%, or 10% up to 30 with the auto attacks. And the reason this is really good because again, you're going to be auto attacking super fast and the move speed lasts for 1 second, but because you're going to be attacking so fast, you're basically going to perma be keeping the 30% move speed up, and you're going to be moving really fast and hard for the enemy to hit, right? Obviously putting points in alt when you can. And you're going to be maxing W. Then after that, you're not going to be maxing Q. You want to max your root for more self-peel. Into root, into Q max. And again, you're not going to be using your Q until you get it to about 4 or 5 points later in the game in your combos, because it's kind of just a DPS loss until later. Even now it's doing 260 damage, right? I'm doing 124, and obviously once I build items, it'll be better. So yeah, this is the ability order. But anyways, let's get into the build. So for the build, we are going to be going crit. So we're going to be starting with Kraken Slayer. So Kraken Slayer is super good. It makes it so that every 3rd auto you're doing bonus damage, which synergizes with her W, as you can see. Bomb, bomb, and now I'm hitting my W proc and my Kraken Slayer. And it just synergizes really well with what she wants to do and makes you do a ton of damage. It also has a really good mythic bonus of attack speed, and Neeko loves attack speed for her W damage, so that is really good. After that, I usually will be going attack speed boots into Phantom Dancer. The only time I don't go Phantom Dancer is if they are like heavy stacking tanks, and I might swap it out for an early LDR. But that's only if they have like tanks that are stacking armor. Most of the time I'd go Phantom Dancer into Infinity Edge, and this is your normal 3 item. So I'd say in this build, you're spiking at 1 item and 3 item. When you're on your 2 item spike with Phantom Dancer, you're not the strongest. But as you can see here, what I'm talking about with the move speed, you can see that you get that move speed under my guy who's basically always having the move speed from every 3rd auto, and you can just run around kiting and doing DPS. After this, there are options you can take for crit build, and there are a lot, so bear with me for a second. So one of them is Runons. So Runons is mostly if you need wave clear for your team, but it also synergizes with Neeko, because Neeko's side bolts that she's throwing count towards her empowered auto. So her empowered auto needs 3 autos, and every 3rd auto you get an empowered auto. Well, these count as an auto, so it's every auto I'm doing empowered auto. See how it's every auto? Compared to if I go like over here, it's auto, 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 right? When I go here, it's every auto, because these count as extra autos. So if you really need wave clear, it helps you with wave clear, and it also helps you fighting in waves and stuff. If the enemy is stacking tanks, you can go LDR next. After LDR, if you're still just tunneling tanks, you can go Blade the Ruined King. If you have assassins who are killing you, Bloodthirster I found to be really good because, or a lot of poke, because you can see you can get this shield built off a minion wave that lasts a while. And when you go into a team fight, you have that extra HP, which just makes you that much harder to kill. GA is a good option if you are getting assassinated, although I will admit, even though GA will scale better with this build because of the AD scales with crit, Zhonya's is really good because if someone dives you, you can ulti Zhonya's. Whoopsies, it's on the wrong key. You can ulti Zhonya's, which means you're going invincible when you want it, and then out of that you can stealth and run away and start kiting, right? So I do prefer Zhonya's over GA, but GA is not bad either. QSS if you need something to get out of CC. Navori Quick Blades is basically if you don't need any of the other things, it's really good because Neeko's W is a 12-second cooldown right now, right? 12.3. And actually without this item, it's 16 seconds, right? So you're already reducing it by 4 seconds by getting it, and then it reduces it even farther. So it's an 8-second root and a 12-second W. And if I use both my abilities and keep attacking, oh wait, I need to take this off. It reduces the cooldown for each second attack. So we'll go at the 5-second mark, right? Boom, 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 right? It's going down. And it was about 5 seconds. My W was like 4-second cooldown. My E was like 4-second cooldown, and my W was a 5-second cooldown. So without this item, it's at 16 seconds, right? And this is at 8. So basically, you're getting twice as many roots off in a fight, and you're getting 3 times as many Ws off, which help you kite and stuff. So if you're just getting run down by like an Udyr or a Tryndamere or something, Navori can be a really good item to help you kite because you can keep getting roots and Ws off. Really underrated item on Neeko, I think. And finally, if you need anti-heal, there's Mortal Reminder. So yeah, you have these as your 3 core, and then you can basically pick and choose what you want for your last 2 slots, depending on what's going on. But yeah, hopefully this helped, and now we're going to go on to the on-hit AD build. Alright, this is my AD on-hit build. So it's very similar to the crit one you saw before. We're taking PTA for a good lane phase. We're taking Triumph for just some extra sustain and gold. And we're taking Cut Down because usually you're going to be tunneling the tanky targets. But if they don't have any tanky targets, you can take Ku or Last Stand. But the big difference is your secondary runes and this tree. So we're taking Shield Bow, we're getting Lifesteal. Obviously, Shield Bow does less DPS than Kraken, so to make up for that DPS loss, we switch into Legend of Alacrity to get some extra attack speed, and we get rid of the Bloodline because we already have Sustain in our item. After that, for our secondary runes, this build with Shield Bow, you can go crit. If you go crit, you'll have to go like this, like you did with the other one. But with Shield Bow, I find you're already going for a DPS loss and stuff. Why are we going for crit? And just being like, the whole point of Shield Bow is we want to live, we want to survive. And by the way, I think the AD on hit build is the best build out of all of them, but it's also harder. Crit is worse in my opinion, but easier. This is the best build. So we want to be taking Conditioning and Overgrowth, unless they have a lot of CC, you can take Unflinching, and this will just make it so that you aren't going to be dying to those assassins. Like, with this build, you're not going to die to Talon, you're not going to die to LeBlanc, you're not going to die to like whatever assassin's jumping on you. You're going to have the Shield Bow, right? And you're going to have the freaking Conditioning procking, and you're going to have Wit's End, and you're going to have Zhonya's and stuff, so you're just going to be really tanky and hard to kill. So it's a really good build. So yeah, this is my AD on hit runes. This is the AD on hit build, and again, we're going to be starting a longsword and 3 pots with this build. If you want to see why, go to the crit section for why, and again, go to the crit section if you want to see why, but I run exhaust, and I'm going to be getting W level 1 into EQ, into W max with R max, obviously, into E max, into Q max. Again, go to the crit section if you want to see that, if you skipped it. Okay, so this is AD on hit. So AD on hit, I think, is actually the best version of Neeko's build. I think the crit one is like the most noob friendly since it's low attack speed and easier to manage. AD on hit is going to be a lot harder to manage because you're going to have a lot more attack speed since all the items you are building in it are going to give you attack speed, right? So we have attack speed, attack speed, attack speed, back speed, where before was like attack speed into right this, which gives you no attack speed, into like a Bork, which gives you no attack speed. And it's a lot easier to manage because you're attacking slower. This one you're going to be attacking faster, but I think it's actually the best version of AD Neeko bot because right now assassins are just reigning supreme and they just one-shot you without you having much counterplay, and it's really hard to survive and function. And shield bow really helps you with this, as when you get low HP, you're going to get a big fat shield. It's getting nerfed actually next patch, but I still think this will be the best build for Neeko just because of the survivability. When you pair the shield bow shield with the conditioning rune with like something like a wit's end, it's going to really help you survive those assassins and make it so that you can actually play the game. So yeah, usually with on hit I almost am always going this 3-item spike, although you can throw in an early Zhonya's after 2-item spike depending how it's going. So you're usually almost always going Rage Blade no matter what, either second or third. To know to go second or third is basically Rage Blade will always out DPS the other two. Actually, before I get into it, I just want to quickly say that Rage Blade is bugged, and people are going to say it's bad on Neeko because it's bugged, but it's still, I've tested, it's the highest DPS damage. It actually out DPS's Wit's End and Bork as a single item, and it's cheaper. So that's what I'm saying, like if you are Giga behind, this will give you the best spike, or if you're ahead but you just don't need Bork and you don't need Wit's End yet, you can get it as just the best spike, but usually you're going to be getting it third. And the reason why people say it's bugged is, as you can see, it's supposed to work like this. Auto, empowered auto, empowered auto, empowered auto. But then after that, it stops working. Auto, empowered auto, empowered auto, empowered auto. It stops working. But every time you get out of combo and refresh straight into fresh combo, it starts working again just for one rotation. Auto, empowered, empowered, and then it breaks again. Auto, empowered, empowered. And for champions like Vayne, it doesn't break like this. It fully works. I don't know why it's broken for Neeko. It just is. But just know, even though it's broken on Neeko, I have tested the damage numbers, and it is still damage efficient just because it double procs your on hit still. Just doesn't double proc Neeko's W. Anyways, that out of the way. Yes, we are going Rage Blade. Also, if anyone in retail watches this, please fix that. So Rage Blade, either second or third always. It's super efficient. Usually second, though, you're going to be getting either Bork or Wit's End. Wit's End, if they have any AP champions that are going to kill you, you're going to be going Wit's End into Rage Blade. And if they don't have any AP champions that are going to kill you and you're going to be killing like tanky targets, you're going to be going Bork into Rage Blade. Very rarely will you get Bork into Wit's End without the Rage Blade first, unless you just really need, you know, the tank shred and the survivability, because Rage Blade just gives you so much DPS, it's hard to manage without. So after your 3-item spike, you can just go for the full combo, but I've also found in a lot of games it's really good to just get an early Zhonya's before. The cool thing about Zhonya's in this build is, because this isn't crit, so the crit build scaled off of AD. The more AD you have, the harder your crits are hitting for, and it scales really hard. Because this build is scaling with attack speed, it actually doesn't matter what your AD is per se, because less AD isn't going to scale as hard, which means an early Zhonya's isn't as bad. And in fact, Zhonya's going to increase the damage on your Q, E, ulti, and your every third auto with your W, right? So you're going to be going from 169 damage, right, before that, and we're going from 130, right? So actually with how fast you're attacking, it's actually not too bad of a DPS item. Obviously, it's less than the other items, but the ability that you can now just like ulti Zhonya's, right? And then come out of that and keep DPSing. It's really, really, really good option. It's super good. After that, you're going to want to go your Wit's End again, but I will mention Nashor's Tooth is good with Zhonya's. So if you already have a Zhonya's and you don't need the magic resist from Wit's End, Nashor's Tooth and Wit's End will do pretty equivalent DPS at this point. You can see Nashor's Tooth gives you 50 damage, and Wit's End is giving you on hit 80. So it's obviously giving you a bit more, but this is also giving you more attack speed than this, and it's giving you 100 AP, which increases your every third auto and stuff. So I've tested, and these are pretty much equivalent DPS when you have a Zhonya's spike. So, yeah, you can go Nashor's Tooth, especially if your team's lacking AP, if you have a Zhonya's. If not, you can go your Wit's End. And of course, at any point, if you need some LDR because they're stacking armor, you can go LDR. If they you need anti-heal, you can go Mortal Reminder. And a really cool thing is Runons actually applies on hit on the bolts, plus it double procs on hit with the Rage Blade, plus it empowers your W on every single auto attack. So with this right now, I can be proccing my Bork. AoE, I'm proccing Bork, plus Bork is double proccing every third auto with Rage Blade. So like if they have a bunch of tanks running at you, like you have in your face, you have a Zac and like a freaking somehow a Sejuani and a Leona, and you combo Hurricane with Bork, Ginsus and like an LDR, you're just going to be AoE shredding the tanks like crazy. So yeah, this is my AD on hit. I think it's the best version of Neeko ADC right now because it's just too hard to survive without, you know, the conditioning, the overgrowth. And in the crit build, you can't run these because you need eyeball connection and the freaking Immortal Shield Bow shield and everything and the Wit's End. It just really scales well. So yeah, this is the build that I've been running basically every game on AD Neeko. But again, crit Neeko functions well, especially if you're facing a really tanky team where you don't have assassins diving you, or if you're just not as good at managing the auto attack speed. Because as you can see, this build, you're attacking very, very fast, right? Where if I show you an example crit build quickly before I go onto AP on hit, and say we do this, and like, I don't know, a GA, right? You can see the difference in attack speed, right? It's much more manageable if you were a newer player, not as good. Because if you can't get all that attack speed in with the on hit build, you're just going to be not doing as much damage as this build anyways. And you can even, you can also, by the way, you're going to be doing less DPS, but I will mention you can go shield bow with this too, right? So again, you're going to be attacking even slower than before, but this build is fine too. If you want to get the extra survivability from the shield bow, but you want the slower attack speed, this is also fine. These are all fine, but the builds I showed originally are the most DPS efficient in my opinion. So let's go on to the AP on hit. All right, so finally, here is my AP on hit runes. Now, I will say, I think the runes are really good, but the build coming up in a little bit later, I'm still experimental with it, so I wouldn't say this is 100% the best so far, but the runes I actually think are. So we'll go on with the runes. We're going Hail of Blades because AP on hit isn't about sustained DPS like the crit and AD on hit build. It's about bursting. You're hitting your combo that does a lot of damage with your AP. And you're getting a couple really quick autos with Nashor's Tooth, trying to burst the enemy down in a quick period of time. So Hail of Blades really synergizes with that. Lethal Tempo will make your lane phase worse, and also this build doesn't have the sustained DPS to make it worth it. It's just about the burst, which Hail of Blades synergizes with. Taste the Blood to get some extra sustain for lane, but you can also take Cheap Shot if you're paired with someone who's like an enchanter. Eyeball Collection just for AP, and Ravenous Hunter for the extra sustain. For secondary runes, we still want to get as much attack speed as possible because it'll synergize with our W procs and our Nashor's Tooth and stuff. So we're going to be getting Legend Alacrity, and we're going to be getting Presence of Mind because Neeko is an AP champion who uses mana, and Presence of Mind gives her more mana because with this build you're going to be spamming spells. So yeah, this is my AP on hit item, runes. Okay, so finally, we are here on the AP on hit build, and I will say this is an experimental build. I have still not tweaked it fully yet to figuring out the most efficient ways. I just have survivability issues so far, so I'm just trying to figure out the best way. I've always struggled with this build because with AP Neeko, you want to max QE, right, for the most burst, and W last. With AD Neeko, you want to max your W into E for sustained DPS and peel. But with AP on hit, you're kind of in this situation where you want Q max for burst, you want E max for peel, and you want W max for the sustained DPS. You kind of want all of them, so it's hard to figure out the ability order leveling, and it's hard to figure out a build that makes you not super squishy while still giving you that DPS. So yeah, this is still kind of an experimental build, but this variation of the build is still very good, especially in lower elos where you're not going to be getting bullied as much as I am in higher elos. So yeah, to start off with the build order, I have two variations of this build. One of them goes with Riftmaker, one of them goes with Everfrost, and they're gonna slightly change. So the first couple levels, it's the same stuff. You're gonna be taking W into, actually you go W into Q into E because you're gonna be wanting to poke a bit more and not look for as many early trades, but you can go for an E level too. One thing I'll note with Hail of Blades, why I like it too with this build, is for the burst, but also in lane it's cool because if your support engages and you don't have your W proc ready, well with Hail of Blades, boom, 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 you can get your empowered auto off really quick. And another cool thing is if you already have your empowered auto ready and you go into a trade with Hail of Blades, you can get double W proc off, right? So auto, 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 and then the last empowered auto with your Hail of Blades. So you can either get a double W proc off in a best case scenario, and in a bad case scenario, if your support goes in when you don't have a W ready, you can make sure you always get that W proc off. So after this is where this build is going to differentiate from the other builds. So obviously we'll be maxing out whenever we can. This build, we're going to be putting points into Q early. We're going to be building AP in this build first before we're building any sort of attack speed. So we want points in Q for just lane poke, and for just, you're going to be playing it in lane very standard AP where you're just going to be looking for bursty quick trades, and that's it. After this is where it depends on what build you're going between Everfrost and Riftmaker. So if you're going Everfrost, I've been just maxing Q into W and leaving E at one point, with the idea being that with a rank 1 E, right, I can E ulti Everfrost, and the ulti Everfrost can extend the root duration so that it's okay that I have 1 point. So if I show that again, root E Everfrost, it's okay to have 1 point in root with this build, right? Because Everfrost gives you that extra root duration. So I've been just doing Q max into W max and leaving E at 1 point with Everfrost. If you are going into Riftmaker, I've been leaving Q at to 3 points just for lane phase. And then after we get our Q to 3 points, I go W max into E max into finishing off my Q if I go the Riftmaker variation. So that's the 2 different ways for leveling up your points in this build. Anyways, so now for the actual build. So you're going to be, this will be different. You're not starting with Longsword 3 pot, and you're actually not starting with Doran's Ring. I've been finding that I actually really like the Doran's Blade for a couple reasons. So for one, especially if you are going the Everfrost build, you're not getting that much vamp, right? My vamp right now is at 9%. Without this, it would be at 6%. So I'm actually increasing my vamp by a third by having this, which is pretty significant. Going from 6% to 9% is pretty significant later. Also, it makes it easier to CS. As Neeko has really low base AD, it makes it easier to CS. You're just going to have to manage your mana a bit better, but you do have presence of mind. And it synergizes again with the Hail of Blades, right? So if you go for an EQ and you get your triple autos with your Hail of Blades, you're getting 3 Doran's Blade autos. So it synergizes with all of that. I really like it for the scaling with the Omnivamp and for the lane phase pressure and for your auto attack damage. Anyways, so the variations, if you're going Everfrost build versus Riftmaker, I usually just get Everfrost first, where I'm just going to be, again, this is why we're doing points in Q, because we're just going to be getting, right, our Everfrost with pen boots, and it's just going to feel very much like a normal AP Neeko build at this point, other than you getting 3 quick autos in. Into your Gnasher's Tooth next, right, and the idea is, again, we get that Gnasher's Tooth proc, so as I can show with my Hail of Blades proc here, that if I went in for a trade with this, I'm getting an extra, wait for it to clear, an extra 150 damage, right? Which, you know, is a fair amount of damage to be getting extra in. Plus, you're just getting that attack speed for sustained DPS in a fight. But the burst is you're getting your full combo in, plus you're getting an extra 150 damage, right? Which is a lot. If you are going the Riftmaker build, what I usually do with the Riftmaker build is you don't want to rush Riftmaker because it kind of scales with you needing to have items, or else the Omnivamp doesn't really help. If I go Riftmaker, I usually just rush Gnasher's Tooth. So I'll usually do something like this where I'll go Blasting Wand, Amp Tome, Pen Boots. So again, I'll just be very much just like in an early lane, just a very much of a mage, into finally getting my attack speed into my Gnasher's Tooth, into my Riftmaker. And at this point, you have sustained DPS. So the difference is usually for the builds is I'll be going Everfrost if they have a bunch of assassins and it's just about bursting someone and living and having the extra peel. And Riftmaker I'll usually run into if they have like tanky front lines where I have to do sustained DPS. As every second in combat gives you 3% more bonus damage, and when it hits 9% bonus damage, it converts into true damage. So if they have lots of tanks and stuff, you can go with the Riftmaker and then bomb, it's pocked, and now I'm doing 9% more damage as true damage on every auto, and it's healing me. So yeah, this will be a more sustained DPS. So now for the rest of the build. So if you're going Everfrost, you're going to want to stick to just AP items. So probably like Zanya's and like maybe a Void Staff, right? Or something like that. And then a Death Cap or something like that, right? Just like standard AP build. If you go Riftmaker, you can pick and choose between the two. To be honest with Riftmaker, I found it depends if your team's full AD stack, you're probably just going to want to go with something like Void Staff and maybe even a Wit's End. Riftmaker really scales with the attack speed because it's about sustained DPS. And even though you're getting 40 AD, you're still getting that 80 AP on hit. So it's still going to give you that 80 damage, and you can scale with that. But if your team isn't all AD and you have like mixed damage and their team's not just full stacking armor, I found that Bork is pretty good with this build, right? So you can be getting 9% extra bonus damage as true damage, which is you're doing percent HP that's getting converted into true damage onto tanks, right? And then you can do something like, you wouldn't really want Void Staff with this build, but you could do something like, you know, a Death Cap and a Zanya's, and just be having this like very mixed damage. The cool thing about this build is you have the burst, right? So if you're just going in for like an alt EQ, right? And your triple Hail of Blades autos, right? We're doing 4,000, wait, 1 sec. I think I didn't let it reset. We're going in with just our combo, right, and our triple auto attack, right, 4,000 damage, 4,100 damage just in a combo, right? But then on top of that, you just have also the sustained DPS of unsustained damage. So the cool thing about AP on hit is it's kind of like this in between of, you're not doing the most sustained damage like if you went AD on hit or crit. You're not doing the most burst damage if you went full AP, but you're doing this kind of middle ground where it's like if any squishy champion comes into you and you do this combo into them, right? Any squishy champion comes in, that squishy champion is dead, right? Like an ADC, a mid laner, they're just dead to your combo still, like any AP build. But the cool thing is if it's a tankier champion, you can get that extra damage in where you have the extra sustained DPS to back up your burst. So it's a really interesting build. The only thing about this build where I'm having struggles with is you're just really squishy, right? So with like the crit builds, you're really squishy, but you have lifesteal and you're hitting for so much, you're healing for so much. I found with this build with the Riftmaker, you're not healing so much until a bit later, and also you're really not healing at all with Everfrost. But with Everfrost, it's okay because you can get the third item Zhonya's. With Riftmaker build, it feels like third item Zhonya's just feels really weird. You're just not doing as much burst as you could, and your sustained damage isn't that high. It feels like with the Riftmaker build, you need to get this, but then at this point, it's like, damn, you're really squishy. Like, you almost would wish that this was just a shield bow at that point because you're just getting one shot, right? So these are the problems I've been finding with this build, but, you know, hopefully I have an updated version of this build at some point. I don't want to keep this video going on too long, so yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Like, comment, subscribe. Really quickly in the lane phase again, you're just looking to all in on their ADC. You don't want to play with enchanters because you don't want to be looking for poke. You want to be looking for all-ins. So you either want a mage support that can zone, and if you ever land a root, your mage can just one-shot them, or you want tank support who engages and you all in on them. You don't really want enchanter supports because Neeko doesn't really do that great in trading. That being said, she's okay with Soraka and Nami, I've found, of all the enchanters. Not very good with any of the shield supports. And yeah, you're just looking to in team fights play like an ADC. You want to stay far in the back, enter the fights late instead of early. Use your ulti instead of with the AP build you can ulti in, but with the AD build specifically, you do not want to be ulting in team fights. Flash ulting in. So if I went like a crit build, right? If you're going for a big ulti and flashing in, you're doing 500 damage AoE. Now that does sound like a lot, but later in the game when there's tanks and stuff that have a lot of resist, it's going to be doing less than that, and you're just going to end up dying, where like, literally, one auto attack did more than 500, right? Look, you go with an ulti and flash in to get 500 damage and die, one auto attack did 800 damage, right? Like, one auto attack does 700 damage. So you don't really want to be ulting and flashing in because you're just going to end up dying and doing less damage than if you just stayed max range and just DPS from afar. As you can see, the DPS is actually insane, right? Like, look at how much damage I'm doing. So you want to think of her ult kind of like a Xayah, right? It's not very often you see Xayah's ulti and then flash in an E looking for engages. Usually Xayah's wait, and when the enemy dives her, she ultis to peel herself. Your ulti's the same way, I promise. People in your games will flame you when you lose a fight and they ping you that you didn't even ult. Some fights you're not going to ult because no one dives you, and there's no point of you using your ult because it never happens, right? But I promise you, with the AD builds, use your ulti for peel. Try to hold your W for when someone dives you. Don't use it at the start of the fight. Wait till someone dives in on you so you can pull back, kite, and start auto-attacking. And as long as you're staying safe and being able to get DPS in, you should be doing your job well. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share this video with your friends, please. I really, takes a lot of effort and work for me to make these videos for you guys. So a simple clicking on that like button really helps me out. And hope you guys have been enjoying this how to support series not how to support, my support guides for season 12. So check those out if you're interested in any of them. We've done like Talia, Vex, Ivern, or not Ivern yet, Zac, Vex if I said that, Neeko. So yeah, see you guys.